Hey guys, just finished watching Doom Patrol, Season 1, Episode 3, Puppet Patrol. What an interesting episode. This show was just kind of really fun and really kind of out there. I mean, especially at the end there. At the end it was pretty out there. So we start off this episode with with Jane kind of putting up signs, missing persons for the chief and stuff, and there's an angry crowd kind of following her, and she ends up kind of stapling, she staples one of the signs to one of the guys in the crowd and stuff, and I kind of think that was kind of funny, and I even recognize that actor just as a bit role like that in, like a background actor like that, a one-line role from Supergirl. I think it was back in the first season, when there were two cars kind of driving angrily type thing on some random street, and they nearly drove over some kids and stuff. She stops them, and he gets all mad at Supergirl. Supergirl catches his hand and kind of twists it and nearly hurts him in front of all these kids, and she kind of lost and stuff. I think that was kind of interesting. So it's cool seeing, I guess, DC shares random background actors, one-line actors from show to show. That was kind of interesting. But so yeah, that was really interesting seeing that. And we see a few flashbacks early on in this episode about Cyborg, that he caused the explosion in his lab, and he's kind of like an anger outburst caused the explosion that killed his mother and turned him into Cyborg. And I thought that scene was like, okay, I get what they're doing. They're trying to make it look like it was him and all that stuff, but it's just the way it just didn't make sense, that whole scene, because I immediately started to analyze, especially when they replayed it and he had him replay it within the episode, and it was just kind of like, so his mother has this lab full of dangerous chemicals, and he just launches them in an explosion that happens so fast that kind of, and they're just lying around there. Like, that's just kind of silly. First of all, first thing she would have told him when he walked in the room, careful, this stuff is very dangerous. You even knock it over, it'll explode. So don't do anything. And so, he's not going to do that on purpose. He would know that things are explosive in this place. And it would have been cool to get a little bit more clear idea as to where this kind of is. Was this kind of like a room off of their house, that they have? Oh, they just happen to have a lab, in their house. Okay, you could see that. But, he would know as a kid growing up, if his parents always had a lab in his house, that he would know it's dangerous to be in there, and he probably wouldn't have been allowed in there until he was like 15 years old or 10 years old or whatever type thing, and not have been allowed anywhere near there because of dangerous chemicals. So as soon as he's allowed in there, he would have grown up knowing that there's all kinds of dangerous stuff. So in an angry outburst, he wouldn't just knock things over. He would maybe punch the wall or something like that. That would make sense, instead of just doing, knocking over all this explosive stuff. Like, it's just kind of silly that it's there. And also, you got to think as to, I don't know much about science. I'm not no scientist or anything like that, but you got to assume that if it's explosive, then what kind of fumes are coming out of those chemicals and stuff. So that whole scene was just kind of, I know what they're trying to do, but it's just too easy to kind of rip the whole scene apart to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. It kind of fails. It's like, let's just have him knock over some chemicals in her lab. And that's what they just kind of did in the writer's room. There's just kind of no sense to it. It just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. If you kind of turn off your brain, oh cool, it makes sense, move on. But no, there could have been all kinds of stuff and other ways to do this for it to kind of make sense, I just think it could have been interesting to see as to where things go with that. But it's just kind of the way they did that scene. I get what they're trying to do, and it worked a little bit, but it's too easy to just break down that scene and how it doesn't make sense. That, clearly that means he's probably been growing up. If he's if this was a room off of their house, he's been growing up with all this stuff, and he would kind of know not to kind of knock chemicals over like that in a fit of anger, it's just kind of silly. So, yeah, I get what they were trying to do. They just could have done it a different way. So, all in all, we'll have to wait and see as to where things go. So, I think it could be interesting to see as to where things go with that, but oh well. It was only a very quick scene, so they didn't want to put too much time into it anyway, so they really didn't. It shows that they didn't put too much time into writing that scene whatsoever. So we see Cyborg gets cut off from his father when he tries to, use Star Labs money and stuff. I think that could be interesting to see here, to see Star Labs. this version of Star Labs, comparing it to the Star Labs on Flash, and comparing the two as to one has a lot of money, has jets and stuff, they can do all kinds of stuff, and the other one doesn't. I think it would be interesting to see here. I mean, we don't really need to see as to how it, it's Star Labs. Of course, it would have a lot of money, but it would be interesting to see, like, oh, here's this product that Star Labs made by Star Labs, or this was created by Star Labs here and there, or type thing, and just would be interesting just to see tidbits just showing. Even just one-liners. Oh, this product that everyone knows about. Yeah, it was originally founded by some guy in Star Labs, so that's how they own this product. That's why they're making so much money. So I think that would be something interesting to see, and it'd be a fun little nod, just kind of throwing shade at the Flash show, because Star Labs doesn't really make that much money, yet they're kind of doing as if they are making tons of money. So I think it would be kind of interesting to seeing that here, but we'll have to wait and see as if we ever get anything like that. So they end up going to a road trip to go to Prague or something like that. So they end up going there. So I think that's going to be that was kind of interesting. They go to a road trip to kind of Paraguay. That's where they're going. Not Prague, my bad, Paraguay. And that was kind of interesting. So that was a kind of a fun thing. And then all of a sudden, Jane ended up turning herself into, I forget the name of the character that can do that. I think it was Cliff or Strife or something like that. Strife or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we only ever see her this one time, but she could teleport everyone there, or she teleports Cliff and Larry there. That was kind of interesting. That was kind of fun there. So we just Cyborg and Rita are barely in this episode. They're just kind of waiting around the motel they were at. That was kind of, they're just not there. I don't know why. It was kind of just they're not doing anything. We see Chief ends up. We find out the Chief was actually there during the creation of Mr. Nobody. That was kind of interesting that we didn't get any of him in this episode doing any of this fourth wall breaking narration. And then we just get they go back to the place where the guy who kind of created Mr. Nobody, and I forget what his name was, Negative Man, Alistair Stone, Eleanor Stone, something like that. Eleanor Stone, I think no, that's Eleanor Stone, it's his mother. I guess they just call him the Doctor or something, so that was kind of interesting. Stromfer. Well, I'm not going to even attempt that name, but I think it was kind of interesting. I kind of like this stuff, especially during some of the fight scenes here. When he was controlling all these different guys, attacking Robot Man, attacking Jane, and she turned into that kind of that silver person who kind of speaks and words come to life and they turn into weapons and stuff. That is what I just love. I would love to just see a full-on show just spinning off of that one personality from Crazy Jane. Just, a full-on show watching her just kick ass for hours and stuff by saying different words. I think that could be really interesting. And I think that would be a really interesting character, just that personality where she can, speak and the words come to life and become weapons. That would be an interesting, just take that personality and kind of that one person, put that into her and kind of just have that team up with Deadpool. I think that could be really interesting, because I think Deadpool teaming up with that personality would be quite interesting, and they could just see Deadpool coming up with words that she could say that could, do stuff. I think could be really interesting and could be really funny to see. So I think it could be quite fun. So unfortunately, Marvel DC is probably never going to happen, but it can dream, right? Fan fiction would be kind of fun to see that. Or that would be a character that'd be a mashup I'd like to see, versus Jane versus Deadpool, Crazy Jane versus Deadpool, and like Bat in the Sun or some YouTube mashup beat up show type thing. So that could be really something fun to see someday on YouTube. But so yeah, that was really cool. All those fights were really interesting, especially with it's going to be interesting to see. It looked like Robot Man Cliff, that at the end of it looked like he was kind of like, oh my god, what have I done, kind of. So that could be interesting to see as to where things go with that. Maybe he feels like he's being disconnected because he feels like he can't feel, and he even said that in this episode. He's like, I can't feel, and then the girl said like, oh, you must feel something. So I think that could be something interesting to kind of play with that. The whole idea that he's in a robot and he ends up, mentally losing his humanity because he feels like he's becoming full robot, but it's all inside of his head. I think that could be a storyline, could be interesting to play with bits and pieces throughout the episode, throughout the season, Not too much. I don't want to dive too much into that, but I think it could be something that could happen every time he kind of, fights a huge crowd of people like this and, just destroys them. Could be kind of interesting to play with the aftermath of those things. And at the end of the episode, we end up revealing that one Asian guy, I can't think of his name, Ring Ding, I think that's his name. Is it here on IMDb? Trying to see who that guy was. I think that's it. I think there's only Ring Ding, I think could have been his name. There's no picture here on IMDb to really see, but I think that was kind of interesting. I like that character and stuff, and he ends up turning into Animal Vegetable Man, which is an obscure Doom Patrol reference from 1960s, if I'm not mistaken. 1985, actually, yeah. He first appeared 1964, Doom Patrol number 89. So from the original run, he's part man. Steven Larson is his name in the comics here, at least in the 60s it was. Animal Vegetable Man. I think that was really interesting, a cameo, and I think that's going to be cool to see them kind of go after him. Although it looks like in his first appearance, if you Google it, he's like this giant purple dinosaur man with like a blue shirt and half man, half dinosaur. And they kind of share face. He has like half a human face with a full dinosaur face, whereas in the show they kind of gave him two heads and stuff, which I guess makes more sense. But in this, he looks like he's tall enough to kind of pick them all up with, as if they're action figure size to him. So I think that could be something interesting to see what happens with that. If he's supposed to be, I don't know anything about him too much. I tried looking him up on YouTube before doing this review, and there's like one video of one guy kind of talking bits and pieces about it, but he kind of just gives a brief overview of it. Doesn't really go into too much detail. It's a very short video. And even the clips there he was on, I think he was on Batman Brave and the Bold. So that would be interesting to check that episode out, just to get another kind of refresher on the character, because I've barely even heard of the character. I mean, I've seen the comics a few times, obviously over eBay and things like that. So I have seen this cover before. I think that's really an interesting character, but I really don't know much about the character. Is he supposed to be, King Kong size, Godzilla size, and big enough to pick any of these characters up with one hand? That could be interesting. But if he stays about this height and he's like about as tall as Crazy Jane, or just a little bit taller than her, shorter than Rita, then it's like, what's the point? It doesn't really look that interesting. But if he is as big as he looks like on this first appearance cover, Doom Patrol number 89 from 1964, which I'll put up in this video somewhere. But if he is that size compared to these characters, then that could be really interesting. I think that could be something fun to see. So hopefully we get to see where things go with him. Maybe he stays this size for a little bit. They fight him, they defeat him easily on, and then later on by the end of the season, someone like Mr. Nobody just shoots him with growth powers and just makes him kind of grow pretty much Power Ranger style. And all of a sudden, they easily defeat him as a regular sized person. And then you make him like Godzilla, King Kong size. And all of a sudden, he becomes the kind of big final boss for them to fight. I think that could be really fun to see as to where things go with that character. But I think the idea of that could be really fun. I can't wait to see as to where things go with this Animal Vegetable Man. So let me know what you think. Animal Vegetable Mineral Man is his full name. So that's really going to be cool to see as to where things go with him. So let me know what you think, guys, about this character and new character added to Doom Patrol. Do you know anything about him? What do you know about Animal Vegetable Mineral Man? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.